Reliance Jio Financial Services will be listed in Indian bourses tomorrow, 20th of July. Remember, Reliance Industries had announced in October last year that it plans to demerge its financial services undertaking into Reliance Strategic Investment or RSIL and rename it to Jio Financial Services. The new entity will also include Reliance Retail Finance, Reliance Payment Solutions, Jio Information Aggregator Services and Reliance Retail Insurance Broking, as well as Jio Payments Bank after the central bank's clearance. Now, Jio Financial Services plans to launch a consumer and merchant lending business and is expected to become India's fifth largest financial services firm in days and months to come. We are, of course, tracking all that and more as far as Jio Financial Services is concerned. Joining us at this point in time is Dipan Mehta, who's the director of Elixir Securities. Dipan, thanks very much for taking time out. I want to first begin by understanding how is the demerger going to happen. We understand that Jio Financial Services would be listed in the bourses tomorrow, but could you take us quickly through demerger, the process of it?
Yeah, good afternoon and thank you for having me on your show. So basically the way the demerger works is that part of the division of Reliance Industries is being spun off into a separate publicly listed company, and it will have a mirror shareholding of Reliance Industries. Whoever is owning shares of Reliance Industries, they will get shares of Reliance Jio as well in the same proportion on a 1:1 basis. Okay, so if I am having shares 1000 Reliance Industries shares, I'll get 1000 shares of Jio Financial as well. And Jio Financial eventually will get listed separately. And therefore, it's a value unlocking opportunity for Reliance Industries and its shareholders, because Jio Financial will have its own journey, will have its own trajectory, and being listed separately, it will have many other dynamics which come into play. And that I think is very, very positive for all the shareholders put together. A price discovery is another matter altogether for the Reliance Industries, the demerged company, and for Jio Financial, which is going to be the new listing company. That's a separate process, how the prices will get discovered. But the demerger is basically just spinning off one division, which will have the same shareholding pattern as the holding company from where it has got demerged.
All right. And the spin-off there is much awaited. As I mentioned, it is going to be listed in the bourses tomorrow. There is, of course, a lot of anticipation around that. What sort of value is a stakeholder likely to get? So if I'm a shareholder of Jio today, what sort of value addition will I be getting tomorrow?
See, first of all, you need to understand that because this business is being spun off, part of the value of Reliance Industries is getting listed separately. So the actual Reliance Industries share, the value of it will go down slightly because it is spinning off part of the business into a new company. But the new company will get listed and that will be traded at a separate value. So some of the parts I'm sure will be much higher, but instead of having one Reliance Industries shares, you will have Reliance Industries and Jio Financial in your demat statement. So that's how it's going to work. And the value, so that's going to be discovered tomorrow in the markets itself. And so the stock exchanges are holding a special pre-open session to determine the value of Reliance Industries, and whatever Reliance Industries closes at X this spin-off, then minus the closing price, that will become the opening value for Jio Financial Services. But once the trading starts, anything can happen. And I think that Jio Financial shares can trade anywhere between 150 to 200, maybe even higher, because usually in the past we have seen that when such events do take place, immediately both the holding company and the spun-off division tends to trade at a higher price. And there generally is a lot of frenzy as well, because a lot of institutional investors, retail investors who may have a small value of Jio Financial, they want to try and make it into a larger value. So go in the market, secondary market, and buy even more shares to make it a more meaningful position.
Mm-hmm. And there were of course discussions as to how it has spooked Paytm stocks, how it is going to spook other competitors' stocks. Where does this fear come from? We understand that the future of Jio Financials is very promising, but where does this fear come from? It is of course expected to become one of the fifth largest or the fifth largest financial services player in the country in days to come.
That's right. I think certainly when you have a big player like that coming on the scene, it's going to try and gain market share from the existing players like say Bajaj Finance or a Paytm. And exactly, they're not Paytm is not exactly competition the same class. But other NBFCs and banks may feel the pressure of a new player coming into it. And for a few quarters or a months, certainly the competitive intensity will increase. But one needs to keep in mind that the actual lending business in the country is doing pretty well. It's gradually expanding. There's more and more financial inclusion thanks to UPI and the CIBIL scores and all the various technology platforms and government initiatives. So the overall lending to the retail sector is growing at a fine clip. So there may be some initial competitive pressure which may be reflected in 1 or 2 quarters of earnings, but thereafter I think things may pretty much settle down. Jio Financial certainly has an edge in terms of the Reliance brand, the Jio brand and its network, and the technology platform and related businesses of Reliance Industries. But at the same time, it is a new player. And in my opinion, they haven't seen really a down cycle in the retail lending space, the way some of the other NBFCs have seen. So that would be a bit of a disadvantage. But broadly, I think it's a well-capitalized company and it has the platform in place, it has the manpower in place, and you're going to see the full muscle power of the Reliance Group being put behind this particular entity. So I'm sure it has a bright future. But as I said, I think retail lending per se has got a bright future in this country. And eventually, I think all players can coexist.
Okay. Absolutely. We hope all players continue to coexist. The more the merrier. But, talking about financial space in particular, I'm going to let you go. I just have 2 more questions for you. Number one, you rightly pointed out that, the sector presents a large opportunity. It's largely, the financial services sector is largely underpenetrated. It is growing at a rate that perhaps we couldn't fathom about a year or 2 ago. Talking about success of UPI and talking about success of adoption of digital instruments in the country, and the fact that access to loan needs to be made better, especially for retail and small businesses. This is where I believe Jio Financial Services will come in.
Yeah, that's right. I think they have a very critical role to play from the point of view of everybody who is within the Reliance ecosystem. That means even the Reliance Retail or Reliance Jio or some of their new initiatives. I think anybody who's connected with the Reliance Group, Jio Financial will try and tap them. They'll try and get the network effect going for themselves. And I'm sure that the technology platform, the lending practices, and their service levels will be pretty decent. So you can expect Jio Financial to gain a lot of traction over the next few quarters or so.
All right. Jio Financial is, of course, expected to gain large traction in a couple of weeks and quarters to come. And this comes on the back of the fact that there is already a customer directory that Jio has by the way of its telecom service, Dipan, and it's going to synergize its operations. It's going to bank on not just the deep pockets of RIL, but also on the customer acquisition, the data acquisition that it has made by the way of a telecom service that it has provided in way of Jio.
That's right. I think you said it right that they will start with an advantage because they have the customer roster of the entire Reliance Group per se. So that certainly is an advantage. It's a new generation NBFC, so they don't have any legacy issues. They have a fantastic new platform and new systems and energized, kind of employee base. So it has many advantages. But the main asset within the company is going to be shares of Reliance Industries itself. So it's a bit complicated to explain, but there are certain treasury shares which are moved to Jio Financial, and that's forming a large part of its net worth. So as and when it needs to access, it may perhaps go ahead and sell those shares in the market of Reliance Industries, which is also perfectly fine. Or they can leverage that and get more deposits or institutional funds to lend to the retail players. But what happens in situations like this, being a relatively new company, typically I think in 2-3 quarters we'll come to know all of its dynamics and all the various financial parameters and qualitative parameters. Those eventually will get discovered, and I think maybe a quarter down the line would be the fair discovered price of Jio Financial. I think over the next few trading sessions, all we can expect is a lot of, I would say, fancy and hype. And you may expect the stock to get slightly overpriced, and maybe there'll be a high degree of volatility as well. But I think give it a quarter or two and it will settle down.
Okay, a quarter or two, it will settle down. And on the back of that news, I think Reliance stock closed about 2% higher yesterday. I'm looking at the Reliance stock this morning. This afternoon, it's closed almost 1.15% higher. Is the rally expected to continue, Dipan? I'm not looking at any investor advice, but I want to understand from you, are you of the belief that the rally in Reliance stock is expected to continue? It clocked a 52-week high yesterday.
See, I think the trigger for this, I would say, uptick in Reliance Industry share price, and mind you, it's been a bit of an underperformer for the past few months. But the trigger has been the demerger of Jio Financial, and maybe the market is sending a signal to the Reliance management that please go ahead and demerge some of the other units as well, that is retail as well as Jio platforms. And I think they will give an even higher boost to the stock price, because clearly at this point of time, when we are buying shares of Reliance Industries, you are buying the oil to chemical business, you are buying retail, and you are buying the digital business. And investors, usually want to play different investment themes, and not necessarily in a consolidated manner like this. So that may have deterred a few new investors into Reliance Industries. But once all of these businesses are split off, then if I want to buy Reliance Retail, then I can buy that stock. If I'm bullish on the telecom sector, I can buy Jio platform or the digital business. And if I'm a value investor, I can look at the the energy business, the oil to chemical business, and then there's the new energy business as well. So it gives options to shareholders, it gives options to investors who want to make a fresh investment to Reliance Industries. But let's see. I think it's about time that all these corporate actions will be taken. And management is extremely proactive. They have their ear on the ground. They are talking to many investors, and I'm sure this is the feedback they're getting.
All right, so good news there for Reliance, of course. And as Dipan pointed out, it is an indication from the market perhaps to demerge some more entities. We don't know whether that's going to happen anytime soon. But Dipan Mehta from Elixir Securities, thanks very much, sir, for joining with your inputs on that very important story. And with that, it's a wrap on this bulletin. Thanks very much for watching.